La Piazza is held under the auspices of the Consulate General of Italy in San Francisco, and another big thank you goes to the Consul General Massimo Carnelos and the Vice Consul General Davide Corriero, who supported us in this effort. The festival is supported by CEPEL, il Centro per il Libro e la Lettura of the Italian Ministry of Culture, who believed from the very beginning to this festival. I would also like to extend a special thanks to the Comite San Francisco and to Massimo Costetti. I'm deeply grateful to all of our sponsors who made this festival possible. I would like to start with patron sponsor, philanthropist Maria Manetti Schrem, whose unwavering support extends to the promotion of Italian studies and culture, and initiatives such as La Piazza. Her philanthropy has benefited institutions including the San Francisco Opera, San Francisco General Hospital, the Jan Schrem and Maria Manetti Schrem Art Museum. Our sponsor, Romano Bracco, who is also Champions of the Art and Ambassador of Italian Culture here in San Francisco. Our partner, Cor Italia Elementi. Our donors, the University of California, Davis, College of Leather and Science, and the Davis Humanities Institute, who enthusiastically embraced and supported our initiatives. A big thank you also to the San Francisco Italian Athletic Club, and also I think to all our friends, which will read this list because it's very important what they did for this festival in so many ways. To Juanita Barbera, Silvia Gardin, Paola Tonelli, Fondazione Veronese, Ital Foundation, By Association, Europa Editions, Marchesi Antinori, C'era una volta Italian Kitchen and Catering, Poesia Osteria Italiana, Mona Lisa Restaurant, Italy, Ital Food, l'Italo Americano, Gelato by Patrizia Pasqualetti. I also want to thank the place which is hosting us today, which is the Club Fugazi Experience and the Italian Community Service. A big thank you to them and to the Italian Community Service, which was created by the Fugazi family for this moment, I guess, for the support and of Italian literature, culture, the arts, and the music. And so our presence here is fulfilling the Fugazi family dream. I will now call on stage the Vice Consul General Davide Corriero, who will say a few words.
Thank you, Mario. This place usually, as many of you may know, hosts amazing acrobats. This beautiful show, Dear San Francisco, that I strongly suggest you to witness. But the true acrobats now are, in this particular moment, during these days, are the people, the staff of the Italian Cultural Institute, and I ask you a big round of applause for the amazing job they're doing this beautiful festival. I'm really honored to welcome you all here on behalf of the Consulate General of Italy in San Francisco, and I bring you the warm greetings of Consul General Massimo Carnelos. We are really delighted to gather here in this special place, as Mario said, in this extraordinary venue, Casa Fugazi. It's truly one of the historic hearts of the Italian community in San Francisco. We're here to continue the journey of La Piazza. This theater is more than just a stage, indeed, and for generations this place has been a meeting place for the Italian and the Italian-American community, a site of celebration, dialogue, creativity that really has helped keep our cultural identity alive in this beautiful city. And it is therefore especially meaningful, as Mario said, to host tonight's conversation here. So many stories of migration, memory, and imagination converge in this specific place. So this evening we have the privilege of welcoming Carlo Lucarelli, one of Italy's most acclaimed writers and a master of the contemporary noir. Throughout his career, he's transformed crime novel into a lens through which to observe Italian society, exploring its ambiguities, tensions, and humanity with both narrative flair and moral depth. Lucarelli's stories go beyond mystery. They reveal how literature can illuminate truth, memory, and conscience. His writing captures the rhythm of Italian life, its contradictions, resilience, and fascination with justice, with a voice that is at once intimate and political, precise and poetic. And it also reminds us that crime fiction is never just about crime. It is about the search for meaning in a world of blurred lines between right and wrong, past and present. And in this, his novels mirror the complexity of Italy itself, a country where history, art, and moral inquiry are forever intertwined. We are equally pleased to have Mauro Aprile Zanetti with us once again, a cultural interlocutor who enriches every conversation with his intelligence and curiosity, and who has given a big contribution to this festival already. His ability to draw connections between literature, philosophy, and contemporary life makes him the ideal partner in dialogue for tonight's discussion. And allow me also to thank once again the Italian Cultural Institute of San Francisco and its interim director, Mario Zaccagnino, whose vision and dedication have made La Piazza possible, as well as patron Maria Manetti Schrem and the many generous sponsors, partners, and donors and friends who supported this celebration of Italian creativity. La Piazza continues to grow as a living platform of cultural diplomacy, an initiative that brings together authors, translators, scholars, and readers to strengthen the bridge between Italy and the Bay Area. And there could be no better place to reaffirm the connection than here under these historic arches at Casa Fugazi, where the past and present of Italian culture meet in conversation. So to Carlo Lucarelli and Mauro Aprile Zanetti, thank you for bringing your talent, insight, and passion to this evening. And to you all in the audience, thank you for joining us and for helping making La Piazza not just a festival, but a community of ideas. Grazie a tutti e buona serata.
Grazie. Before we start with the event tonight, I also want to stay with us. I also want to acknowledge the leg of the festival, which is called La Piazza Kids, which you didn't have the opportunity to see because it was only reserved for school. But I think it's very nice, so I want to thank Silvia Lachille, who's here. Today she went to La Scuola International School, and tomorrow she will go to St. Peter and Paul School and St. Catherine of Siena. And I also want to thank Daniela Mazza from the Director of the Educational Office at the Consulate General of Italy. I now call on stage Benedetta Faedi, that was also part of the La Piazza Kids. Today we went together to Lowell High School, so she will tell something, I guess.
Yes. Buonasera, everyone. Good evening, everyone. So just a quick thought about, I guess, my experience today and the experience that I'm sure Silvia had at La Scuola International. So today was actually the very first day of La Piazza Kids. And Silvia D'Achille, a very acclaimed author, and myself, we had the pleasure and the honor to actually meet students from across the Bay Area who are studying Italian, from primary school all the way to high school. And so this speaks, I think, to something we deeply believe in, that Italian culture is one of the most powerful way through literature to actually bring the Italian identity and culture alive for young people. And so when you bring books and when you bring stories, it doesn't really happen in an abstract sense like a textbook, but actually in a very real, personal and human sense and connection. And so when an author sits with a child or a teenager and talks about stories, even their personal stories or their narratives, something really special happens that no textbook can replicate. And as Mani was saying, many thanks to Daniela Mazza for her tireless work in making these events happen and possible for everyone, and kids that learn Italian here in the Bay Area. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Benedetta, and thank you, Cecilia. We were really happy of hosting you in this part of the festival. Thank you again. Okay, so now we can start the event tonight, the closer event of this festival. It is my great pleasure to introduce the bridal of our closing night, Carlo Lucarelli. Carlo is the author of novels, essays, and screenplays. He has also hosted television programs about crimes and mystery for many years. His books are translated in several languages and have been adapted into films and TV series, including the cycle dedicated to Commissario De Luca and, naturally, the series L'Ispettore Coriandolo. The event is moderated by Mauro Aprile Zanetti, Mauro is a cultural strategist based in San Francisco Bay Area, working at the intersection of culture, philanthropy, and technology. He serves as the global brand and philanthropy strategist for the Manetti Shrine Foundation, and is chief business evangelist at Cloud for Why. The interdisciplinary author, Mas, has written about figures such as Federico Fellini, Giorgio Morandi, and Lawrence Ferlinghetti. Without further ado, I leave the stage to Carlo Lucarelli and Mauro Aprile Zanetti. Thank you. Oh, I forgot we also have the interpreter tonight, Simonetta Cocco. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to talk in English, correct?
Yes, but I have to say, I try to speak in English, but if my Italian Tarzan English, using will be too bad. I have my guardian angel here, very, very close to me, so I feel safe.
So you're going to translate into Italian?
If need be. Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you so much for being here. Such a legendary place, Casa Fugazi, Club Fugazi. So tonight we're going to talk about this book, The Darkest Winter. The original title is L'inverno più nero, and you worked on that book right before COVID, because it was published in 2020, in the middle of COVID. So 5 years later, in 25, now it came to the English speaker audience. Did you participate to some extent with the translator, by the way, Joseph Farrell, or did he interview you about some kind of words? Also, the book has, like the Italian one, you have a glossary at the end to explain us a lot of things about history, and a very useful page about notes, about music. We're going to talk about that. So I want to know if The Darkest Winter, it's not literally L'inverno più nero. If by any chance you can tell us something about that. I'm sure the nero in Italian, since we're talking about fascism, has something to do with that. So please.
Allora, sì, yes. I spoke with the translator, and we spoke about a lot of things, and he chose the way to translate the title. And a lot of things, because I have to explain a lot of things about the Italian history, for example, about some, come si dice, sfumature, some feelings of the Italian history and the Italian way of things to the English reader, for example. He told me, the translator, many English readers can't understand why a policeman, like my Commissario De Luca, is scared by some other policemen, like the SS, for example. They are valid. It's not so simple. I say it's not so simple. He's very scared by SS, German police. Also, if they are in the same side, because it's not so simple. And I wrote a lot of things.
Great. Well, of course, the winter image. The book is basically about a very specific winter, 1945, beginning of 44, beginning of 45, when Italy was freed by the Allies from fascism. So he's basically given us a portrait, a landscape of a very special moment where there was everything in action, SS, Gestapo, all kinds of police, law enforcement, but it was also partisans. So it was a very, very unique moment for Italy. Thanks so much for letting me discover this part of Italy in Bologna. That's the stage, because usually we know about Rome, because of also movies like Roma Città Aperta. And somehow there was a sort of a Spedizione, was the very old city of Bologna that they agreed not to bomb. So somehow it was the same thing of Roma or Florence, even if the Nazis tried to do things. But I have to say, The Darkest Winter, is it just about Bologna, Italy, that moment, or also the darkest, più nero, Inverno is like an archetype impersonated by Comandante De Luca, and because he remind me that winter also somehow the beginning, the incipit of Richard III, who was a perfect machine de guerre. He was a very superlative criminal, and he starts by saying, "Now is the winter of our discontent, my glorious summer." And so I would like for you to tell us better about this winter, the più nero, but tied to the character.
Yes.
Because
Yes, allora, it's all archetype, of course. The city of Bologna, this time, and my character, Commissario De Luca, is not only, I think, I didn't want to write only about this character in this time, in this situation. I think I always write about a certain way to be Italian. Of course, in the worst way, because I am a writer of these kind of things. And I have to say, at first, about the birth of the Commissario De Luca as a character. Because many years ago, I was writing my thesis in the University of Bologna. I was studying contemporary history, and my thesis was about the political police during the fascist time. And I met a man who was a friend of my parents, an old man, who were in the political police for 40 years. He was retired in this time. He started in the political police of Mussolini, of fascist regime, the OVRA, and as an agent of OVRA, he, come si dice perseguire? He persecuted anti-fascisti, of course. And then, at the end of the war, after a lot of strange things, he was in the Polizia of Partigiani. It's very strange. Very Italian, not only Italian, so very strange. In the Polizia of Partigiani, he told me I was in the Polizia of Partigiani. And as an agent of the Polizia of Partigiani, he persecuted fascists, of course. Fascists who worked with him, and who was, for example, his boss. And then, after election and so on, the Republic, Italian Republic, he was in the police of Democrazia Cristiana, and he persecuted partisans. And so, year by year, he always persecuted the people who were his companion, his followers. So, the year before, so I say.
he had all intel about the partisans, about this.
And so I asked this man, Maresciallo, I have a question for you. What do you vote for? This is my curiosity, no? Maybe he say, oh, I'm sorry, you are a fascist, I have to handcuff you, no, but I am like you, or the contrary. He became very angry, and he said to me, what do you mind? And cosa c'entra? I'm a police, and nothing else. And so, stop. He cut the interview, he cut my thesis. I'm not a good example for the student, but and I come back to my home with a question in my mind. There is some moment in the history that saying I don't, come si dice, non c'entro niente.
It's not my fault.
It's not my fault. I'm just a policeman. I'm just a writer. I'm just a plumber. So, what do you want? A worker. Non c'entro niente. It's not enough in this time, for example. So I come at home and I say, I want to write about a policeman, not this policeman, another policeman, who say, I'm just a policeman in a very bad time like this time. So this is De Luca. this is all the people that in this time, in that time, and also in this time, say, non c'entro niente, it's not my fault, I'm just a policeman. And this last book is the answer to my De Luca. Who are you? Because De Luca is not a fascist. De Luca in another book, allora, sgridato, come si dice? Yelled at. Così? Was yelled at because he didn't wear the cimice. The cimice is the symbol of the fascist party, no? All the public officers have to show it. And so they say, oh, why you are the home? Because he forget it in another jacket. The day before, he come with the pin, and they yelled it again, because Mussolini is fall down, the governor of Mussolini, and you don't have to. So, my Comandante De Luca is this, he's not a fascist, but is a man who say, cosa c'entra? I am just a policeman, and it's not a beautiful answer. This is what I wanted to speak about. This one, in this place, Bologna in this time, because Bologna in this time is very interesting. I studied for the book before this a lot of things about Bologna in this time, a lot of pictures. I write a book about the economy, the society, and the politics in Bologna in this time, until page 68. Because page 68 is 1943, the year 1943, the year I was writing about. I don't need and I don't have to know what happened in the 1944, no, and after page 63. I don't have to know. So, but when I finished my book, and Bologna in this time was, come si dice, a ghost town, because the Allied bombed a lot Bologna. Yes, and so all escaped. And Bologna is very beautiful city because the portici, the portici of Bologna are in the night, are, come si dice, vuoti, empty, with the noise of the passi, and so on. And then, when I finished my book, I started to read page 64, because it was interesting. And Bologna, in the page 64 of this book, and is in the 1944, was completely different. Because the Allied don't bomb anymore, because spare zone, città aperte. And so, a lot of people come to Bologna. 600,000 people, much more than now. And 20,000 animals. Because the cow, the chicken,
livestock.
Yes, and so Bologna is very different. But I think writing about this Bologna is not just writing about this Bologna this time. It's writing about a lot of situation also now. So
yeah, I agree that is a real powerful way to use history, because remember, Carlo is an extraordinary historian, first of all, so that's why probably you use a noir genre to investigate as an excuse, because your mysteries and writings is never about a so-called, with Hitchcock would say, who done it. It's not important about who did something. It's more about the process, by the way, great style of writing, and the process to unleash and unearth from the moment that you are portraying a universal language and universal parable. And by the way, when you read about this horrible, darkest winter in Bologna, that's why you feel when you read the book that unfortunately it speaks volumes. This is actually all the war theaters we are right now witnessing from far, fortunately for us. But many people live it that way. And by the way, there were always so-called mercenari. Your comandante is at work for whoever is coming. And the question you asked to the maresciallo, the marshal, who answered, che c'entra, che mi importa, I'm a servant of the state. So this could sound like I'm a civil servant, but the line is so thin because at one point you should make a stand, you know, thinking of our world now in the United States, in Europe, who's making a stand when you have some kind of power? Tonight, as we speak here, there is an artist in town who's been speaking, taking a lot of, heat. The name is, par excellence, the boss, and big names like Bruce Springsteen or Robert De Niro. In their position, they're trying to say something. A lot of others are not saying anything because they say, why should I? So, to close on this chapter, what you said confirms that your Comandante De Luca is exactly Richard III. When Richard III is on the ground at the end of his tragedy, he's not asking for the crown. He's asking for a horse. All my kingdom for a horse. Because he's a war. He wants just to get another war. He doesn't need the crown to sit as a king. De Luca is like that. He's very fearing the way you depicted that character. Can you tell us about music? Because there are several songs in the book. You also grant us access with the notes in the book where he tells us about the kind of songs. I checked some of them. Some are available, even on tunes by Apple. Some others are not. Can you tell us, because I think you start sometimes from a song.
Yes, for me the music is very important. It's important in writing because I listen to music and so I write this rhythm. But it's not only this. It's important in this kind of novel because it's a part of the history of music. If I speak about the 80s, for example, my years, I was born in the 60s, of course, but the 80s, I was 1 years. I have always to speak about the song, no, I was listening. This is part. If you listen something, for example, in the radio, no, you can say, this is the 80s, the 90s, 2000, the 60s, the 70s, and so on. So it's very important. It's very important in this time. Because in this time, you don't have, in Italy, and the radio, the computer, all of this music. But you have a lot of music in Italy, in Bologna, because you have the radio, the fascist radio, and they come si dice, trasmettono,
Podcast.
perfetto, a lot of music, of course. But you also have music at home. People come and in the cortile, yard, you throw to them a little money and they start to sing something. So and the fascist regime, of course, music is very, very important, the march and so on. So I have to put music in my book. But music is also another strength for me. And this, like in Almost Blue was one of my book. And sometimes happen that I hear something, a song, for example, and I think, this is my book. This is the mood, the theme, the rhythm of my book. I wrote Almost Blue because I have heard Almost Blue in the Elvis Costello version, and Almost Blue of Elvis Costello in the Chet Baker version. And when I hear it, I thought, I want to write a novel like this song, like this music. This is the soul of the story I want to tell. And in this case, I need the music because all the Italian characters in my book hear some music. And so I have to. But now I have to tell you this very, very short. It's more difficult because I wrote this book before the COVID. My book was published in 4th of March.
2020.
2020. they close.
That's when our city closed.
Three days, after. And I was ready with my book to make some conversation, presentation, to go there and there to speak about news, but it was closed. Many of my friends, writers, asked me, are you going around with your book? No, I'm closed. Okay, so we don't want to come out with our book. So my book was the only book published in this time. And I've done, I think, 100 meetings by internet. Because I was the only book. So it was very, very good. But after the COVID, the publishing house of music lost a lot of money. And so they want money. And so if you put a song in your book, they want you to pay, yes. And sometimes happen, they don't want to give you the music. For example, if there is some problem about the diritti of the right. I would like, in the last novel I wrote, Almeno Tu, I would like to have a song of Dumbo. You remember the movie Dumbo, Disney Dumbo? But I couldn't. Because the Walt Disney are fighting with the, come si dice, aventi diritto, with the man who has the right of the Italian version of a song of Dumbo, the Pink Elephant Parade. I would like very much, because it is one of the song of my childhood. It has a lot of meaning for me, no? And I wanted this book. This book was a very hard book for me to write, but it couldn't. I think that the people who has the right of the Italian version are not the people, of course. Dumbo is 1941. And the Italian people who sing this song are dead. but there is a problem. So they say you can't use it. This is a problem in Italy. It's not so easy.
Unbelievable.
Only in Italy.
So I thought it was when you use the music like you play in a movie. So even mentioning the titles of these songs, like, because I was listing Pippo non lo sa, which is a very funny one. Dove sta Zazà? I know a version by Murolo. He did that. And then Battaglioni M is a very fascist thing. That one is still available.
Yes, was available because it was before the COVID. But after the COVID, now if I would read a book like this, my publisher
will ask you to...
No, they have to ask for the rights. They have to pay. If they pay too much, they call me and they say,
change the song.
Yes, change the song. Not so much music, it's boring. They don't say, you don't want to pay. Oh, it's boring, so much music. Why? This is a book, not a CD.
Well, when you read the book, you understand the music is not an extra diegetic thing. It's a very intra-diegetic, because that's where history speaks. So, for example, at the end, Rossetto started to hum, "A primavera s'apre la partita," but De Luca did not hear him. Quindi, so even at the end of the book, your music is still on. It gives you that idea. And well, this is really fascinating, because it brings us to my next question about, I didn't know anyway that you cannot use a song this way. My next question is about Almost Blue, where you mentioned the desire to write something starting from a song. By the way, Almost Blue, this is another discovery I owe the festival, because I've been learning so much working on Rampini's book and on your book. But I was really surprised and shocked that his first book published in the United States was published in San Francisco, few blocks from here, to 61 City Lights. I didn't know. So City Lights published Almost Blue. I didn't know at all. I didn't have a chance to talk about these with Lawrence Ferlinghetti. And so, speaking of that book, that also was brought into the screen, on the screen, because it became a movie. And you know, when you have a book that then becomes a film, there's always that conversation, small talk, like when you ask people, oh, did you prefer the book or the film? And I always remember Hitchcock's interview with Truffaut, who discussed about this problem, because once he did the Rebecca, and that had a very important book, because usually Hitchcock used to work on films after Pulp Fiction, like most unknown authors, and he gave a wonderful explanation. He said, well, this is the story of two goats roaming on some garbage hill, and one finds the can with the pellicola, the film, and one finds the book, and each asks the other one, do you prefer the book or the film? So, but why I'm mentioning Almost Blue, because that was a film, but this one is already a movie, because the way you wrote it is very cinematic, in 3 parts, and investigation always has like a 1 page of a newspaper. How do you, because you use newspapers of those days to tell us something that localized actions, because as you said, in 43, Bologna was empty.
Yes.
And a few months later, it was overcrowded. 600,000 people living in a theater. There is a wonderful also picture of this theater with balconies full of families, animals in a theater. So how do you see this book in a cinematic way? Are you thinking about making a movie? Are you in talk with anybody about that?
No, I'm not talking because it costs too much for the Italian television, because it's...
No, now it's in American. Ask here.
Ah, yes, oh. If you know someone who wants my book, please. No, allora, I have some movie and TV movies from my book. Almost Blue was a film, no, for the cinema. But I wrote a lot of TV movie with one of my characters, Ispettore Coliandro, for the Italian television. I like this movie because, of course, I wrote this movie. So, but they are very, very different from my book. So, if you ask me for Almost Blue or also Commissario De Luca was in the Italian television for TV movie for the first 3 books about Commissario De Luca. Not this. And if you ask me, I say I think they say the same thing of the goat, because they are different, 2 different things. Con l'Ispettore Coliandro, I write Ispettore Coliandro, it's not the same Ispettore Coliandro I write in the book, because it's different, it's another language. For example, you can write, they told me, some screenwriter, you can write a book with 600 pages, for example, a very, very long book, very page. But the movie, the screenplay of the movie has 100 pages and nothing else, because if not, it's too long. So you have to cut a lot of things, no? To make a movie. It's another things. Almost Blue, I didn't write Almost Blue. The director and another screenplay write Almost Blue, because the director came to me. It was a very young and very talentuous director, Alex Fascelli, in Italy, very, very young. He came to me and said, I want to buy your book. And I told to and I talked with the publishing house, I said, don't sell. Not because I didn't like Alex Fascelli, because I said, maybe in that time someone bigger come. And Fascelli was a very rich guy, and he bought my book because he said to Einari, my publisher, I give you a lot of money, so I want this book. So he came to me and say, okay, I have your book. I want to write this book with you. I come to live in your house for a month, and we write together, okay? I say, and then he disappeared for 1 year. After 1 year, he comes and says, I wrote the screenplay. But now I want to rewrite this screenplay. I come to live in your house for months. And we wrote again. Say, okay, when you want to come. And after he called me and said, I made a movie. Do you want to come to the cinema to see your movie? And say, okay. And so I see Almost Blue is another movie, another thing. Because I like in my Almost Blue 3 characters, no? The blind, there is a blind guy, a serial killer, and a female detective. But he didn't like this. Alex Facelli was interested on the serial killer and nothing else. So it's another movie, another story. But it's okay for me, I like it. So I think this, the pellicola, the film, or the book. It depends what kind of goat you are.
A bite from each plate, one here and one there. Well, it makes sense, like every reader in the room, when we read something, everybody has a different picture, or different things that they like or they don't like. By the way, there is a note in your book, very honest, but actually it's about what writing is in the very sense. You say we writers steal. We do steal not from just authors, other writers, we steal from life. But actually, when you read this beautiful note, you understand that it's not a stealing process at all. It's about absorbing history. Because we are made of history. We are history. I think of one of the greatest, maybe the last global renowned philosophers Italy had, Giambattista Vico, very revered in America and Asia, all over the world, who spoke about cicli storici. But he always had a powerful motto, and he says, verum ipsum factum. Basically, we are what we do, and we are fragments of history. And with your writing, we really enjoy how you make all of us, each one of us, feel part of a bigger picture. History, not just the history of Bologna or Italy again. It's absolutely very local, but it's superlatively, unfortunately, global. Because what you describe as a horror, like the kind of dishumanity we can reach, is really so speaking volumes, you know what I mean? And there is a threshold at the beginning of the book from Castellaneta, where you say, almost by heart, I remember, as long as man is made of the same shit, period, like a telegram, I count on you. And this relates a lot with other writers like Antonin Artaud about the excremental essence of this humanity that we become. And also Céline, Voyage au bout de la nuit, where he describes the same kind of horror. So, from writers who depicted World War I, to writers who spoke about the horror of World War II, and you now, my question is, to you as an historian, not just as a refined writer, is history a magistra? Do we learn anything from history? Or maybe it's just a repetition from which we do not get aware of for anything?
Great question. I don't have an answer. I have hope. No, I have hope that history is magistra. This is my. I have hope because I live here in this time. I want to live some other times, but I have 2 daughters of 14 years, they're twins. 14 years, they're not 40, 14 years, and for them I have hope, of course, but I also think that history is not magistic. I repeat everywhere because allora, thank you. Because we are always surprised by what happened. But if you think, and I read about history, we have lived this situation a lot of time. For example, during the COVID, during the lockdown, I was in my home, looking through the window. There is a square. I live in a very little town. There is a square, water, empty, silence, and I see a man who come, come si dice, walking the strange way, looking behind him, and another man in another corner, so they are looking, and so he come away. This is the beginning of all the zombie movie I have seen. But it was the COVID. Men locked down, they are in the empty square because the police can get it. But this is allora I live in Romagna. Romagna is in the center of Italy. I think 2 years ago, but also this year, there was a, come si dice, alluvione flood. A very big flood in Romagna. And all the beginning of the, come si chiama, catastrophic movie begin like this.
With the flood.
What the flood? It was raining too much. It's very strange. Too much rain in this season. And then you can read, some line 2 months after, and you can see the people, with the survivors and so on. So, but also in near my town, we discovered, I think 5 years ago or 8 years ago, the mafia in Emilia-Romagna. The mafia of Calabria, the 'ndrangheta, because the police come and arrest 200 people of mafia near Bologna. And we are all surprised. Oh my God, we have mafia, not only Sicily and Calabria, also in Bologna. But we know, because it happened also 5 years before. But we, come si dice, forget. And then we are always surprised when something happens. And so this is the same things, I think. I write about war, I write about fashion, we are surprised. Now we are living in worst time, and we don't know if we will have the war or not. For example, tomorrow or the next week. And this is the same thing. So I have hope we can learn from history, and we will have no more war in our life, because of course I want to have hope, and also because I know I am always surprised. I don't think about this. I was born in the 1960. I lived all my life, my young life, with a bomb, like many of us, with the bomb, the American bomb and the Russian bombs, the Cold War. But I never was scared about the bomb. And now we are speaking again about nuclear war. So, but I hope, because I'm old, I don't, come si dice, non c'entro più niente. I have nothing to do, but my daughter are smarter than me, smarter than us.
So hope is in the youth.
Yes, because they are very scared. They don't forget, I think.
Well, we hope youth will help us, because if the situation is what it is, it's because of the older ones, ourselves. So we need to make a stand, because if we become robotic, like your comandante, there is no more feelings of qualia. And with technology and AI, this kind of erasure, tabula rasa of memory could happen. I don't want to open a dark vision now. I want to open the conversation to your beautiful audience. But think about that. If knowledge is just a prompt to a machine that gives you back what you don't need to know, because you need a toast, you need a croissant, you need a Coke, and it gives you exactly the perfect thing. Where is the digestion of building up knowledge, dialectics, understanding things, asking the right questions? So I open the mic to the audience for questions, but my personal wish and hope is that we will have more historians as possible like Carlo. We need historians.
Grazie. Grazie.
We need that. So I'm sure there are questions if you want to ask anything on the topic. Or we can go on and discuss. We have a question over there, an icebreaker. Just simply rompi ghiaccio.
Can you say something about the role of place in your writing? What about Bologna captures you and inspires you? La grassa, la rossa, la dotta, or what?
Allora, Bologna is very important in my work. Allora, I think two reasons. One is because the city are very important for the writer like me. We write about something scary, incredible, no? Incredible story. We need to anchor our incredible story in something real. And the real is the city. Edgar Allan Poe wrote a very beautiful and incredible mystery story in the Rue Morgue. It's very incredible what you are writing, but it's happening in Rue Morgue, and so you can say, I can believe it, because there is a Rue Morgue. And Bologna for me is important, because I write about this. I write about a city with like this, with a lot of animals and people and refugees, and you can say, it's incredible. No, this is Bologna. And so it's important for us, not the reality. But Bologna and the city, our city, my city is Bologna, is much more important because it's an incredible city. I like very much Bologna. I live near Bologna, but for me Bologna is the most beautiful city in Italy. It's not true, I know. There are a lot of cities, Venezia, Firenze, but for me Bologna is the most beautiful city.
And the mortadella.
The mortadella, the tortellini, we have a lot of cities. But Bologna is a very good place to write a crime story because allora come si dice, non è mai quello che sembra. She's never was what she looked like. For example, Bologna is a city of ground in the center of Italy. If you are in the center of Bologna, you can see brick, of the house and concrete and nothing else. But if you open a little windows in Bologna, you can see Venice. Because under the concrete, under the pavement of Bologna, there is a lot of water. And it's covered. Bologna has Portici. Portici is a very beautiful place, an arcade. And when you are under the portico, you are covered. The rain, the sun, it's okay. But what is under the portico? Because the portico will cover but nasconde, hides. So this is perfect for us because a city that can surprise you in every moment. And also we have a picture of Bologna. It's like this. There is a writer near Bologna, Modena, called Pier Vittorio Tondelli. And Pier Vittorio Tondelli told, we are people that work in Bologna, sleep in Modena, and go to dance in Rimini. And this is, for us, is the same city. Bologna for us, for the writer like me, is like Los Angeles. A very, very, very big city.
Makes sense.
In this big city, everything can happen. And so it's very important for us. For me, it's very important. I can't write story not settled in Bologna or near Bologna, in Emilia-Romagna, in my place.
Well, the stages are very essential because he needs that kind of body where to let his characters grow. And I think it's a character itself. The way you depict Bologna is a character. More questions? We have a big light here, so we don't see it actually very well. Just to give you.
Hi, thank you for having this presentation in English. A lot of crime writers have like the same police officer, and it's like a series. So is De Luca in all your books, or can you read them as separate, discrete novels, or where should a new reader begin reading your books?
Ah, okay. Allora, no, I think you can start from every book. I have some character in my book because I start with De Luca for this reason I told you, and then when I finished my book was 1945, 25 April, and De Luca was running away in a car. I don't see the end of the book. I just these little things. And I asked to me what happened to De Luca after the last page. And in Italy happened a lot of things after the last page of my book. And so I write another book with De Luca. And I was thinking, I want to write for every year a book, a story with De Luca. And De Luca told us the history of our country, of Italy. So 1945, 1945, 1946, 1947, and so on. But I want to write history, come si dice, separate, indipendenti, separate. So you can read De Luca in 1946 or 1948 or 1950, but it didn't happen. Because after the second book, I had another idea about what happened in my city and in my country. Because I live in Bologna, so Bologna is a very beautiful city. For me, Bologna is the city, I'm sorry to say this, of 3T. We say Bologna 3T, tower, teats, and tortellini.
Why are you so sorry? Are you sorry?
It's because I've seen teats, no, it's not so beautiful. Torri, tette, tortellini, cioè it's a very beautiful, you can stay well in Bologna. But in this time, there were in few years 25 killings in Bologna, a lot of robbery, a lot of strange things. People who come in the night in the refugee camp and start to shoot the refugee, for example. People who killed testimony of robbery in the square of Bologna. So you say, what is Bologna? 3T? No, 3T. Bologna looks like the Los Angeles of James Roy. Anche perché, also because the criminal, we discover after, were police of Bologna. So I say, what is my city? Why is like this? It was always like this. I wanted to start to write about this city, but De Luca is too old for this city. It was the 1992. So I had another character, Cogliandro, Ispettore Cogliandro. He came and say, I can tell you about this city. And so I write. And then I have some other idea, Almost Blue, my detective, Grazia, and so on, another kind of Bologna. But I think all of these books are single book, because I write about this story, the story of this moment.
So there is not like intertextuality that you refer.
No, there is, but
a trunk and lever by itself.
Yes, because for example, there is a intertextuality and the story growth, of course, but the question is always the same. For De Luca, to me, for De Luca, the question is why you are like this. You are not a bad man. You are a policeman. You want to find the truth, okay? You believe in justice. But you were born in a time, the fascist time. De Luca became a detective of the fascist police. He doesn't know, because he was too young, what does it mean to be a policeman in a democratic country. So for De Luca, it's normal. You have some law, but this is the question of De Luca. You say, I am a policeman, but there is some step, no, one step. You can say, I am a policeman, not this kind of police. This is the question of De Luca. Because De Luca, in the normal, in the reality, is a man, no, who may the detective. If someone kills someone, De Luca come and say, this is the murder. But the law is, after 1938, you have to write a book with all the Jewish people in Bologna. You have to write this book. And after 1940, with the war, in this book you have to choose all the Jewish people that are not Italian citizens and send them, not in a concentration camp, but in a city.
Like a ghetto.
Like a ghetto, yes, in the country. And so you say, I'm a policeman. This is my duty. But after 1943, when the German come, a German policeman told you, give me the book. And maybe help me to search these people. Where? When you can say, no, I am a policeman, not this kind of police. This is the question I have to De Luca. I have the answer of the question, I think, in this book, which is the last book of this kind of story about De Luca. But I think you can read what you want, because the question is always the same. And the answer is not the answer of De Luca, it's our answer.
Thank you so much. So, more questions? We need you to libero.
In inglese?
In English, this is Italian. Leggi in italiano, poi magari vediamo come funziona la traduzione.
Yes, I try to... Adesso?
Which part? Quale esce?
Io vorrei
Thank you.
Io non lo so. I read this. Because you spoke about this. Allora, now I read this. Every chapter begins with the newspaper, Il Resto del Carlino. And it's like this. L'avversario spreca le sue forze contro le incrollabili difese della Wehrmacht, nuove micidiali armi tedesche approntate per la guerra marittima. Because in the newspaper, in the first page, you have what the regime, of course, want to you know, and we are winning the war, of course, because the regime always say like this. I think I said something of politics. It was my intention. But of course, in the 1944, we are losing the war. No? The German, the Allied, the bombing. But the regime in the first page say we are losing, we are winning the war. And then you have another page, third page in the Carlino, and this Cronaca di Bologna, news from Bologna. Materassi e biancheria rubati. They stole materassi because we don't have materassi. Also, l'oscuramento orario inizia alle 17:10 e termina alle 7. Oscuramento come si dice? Blackout, because if not they won't. When the blackout. So, in the newspaper you have a lot of news, the fake news of the power, and also the news you need. I need to find me, for example. Where? In Wall Street and so on. Allora, I wrote this at the beginning, the resto del Carlino, and then I come and I write, il tedesco spalancò la portiera e infilò la testa nella macchina, attento a non sbattere l'elmetto contro il montante. Si era tolto un guanto che teneva in bocca tra i denti come un cane, perché l'altra mano la stringeva sull'impugnatura del mitra, l'indice gonfio di lana ruvida che riempiva il ponticello sul grilletto. Prese i documenti che Franchina gli porgeva, già pronti, e restò a lungo a guardarli in faccia tutti e due, impassibile. Il ragazzino con ancora i brufoli, i capelli ondulati di brillantina al volante e De Luca a fianco, infossato nel sedile della 1100, avviluppato nel soprabito chiaro, troppo leggero per quell'inverno già così freddo.
Quindi la parte inglese di questo. So first he mentioned how he started the novel with specific newspapers. One was Il Resto del Carlino, Friday, December 1st, 1944. Then there is the date written according to the fascist period in Roman numbers. Italy, Empire and Colonies, 50 centesimi. The enemy squanders its forces against the unyielding defense of the Wehrmacht. New lethal German weapons devised for war at sea. Battalions of the war-wounded volunteer for anti-aircraft and anti-parachute duties. And then he mentions report from Bologna, the news that people need. Mattresses and clothing stolen. Mattresses and clothing to the value of 20,000 lire have been stolen from the damaged home of 53-year-old Dario Bizzardi, also known as Andrea, the blackout, schedule, from, and so on. Then he starts writing his story. The German pulled open the door and stuck his head inside the car, careful not to strike his helmet against the framework. He had taken off a glove and held it dog-like between his teeth, while in his other hand he clutched a submachine gun, his index finger padded with rough wool filling the trigger guard. He took the nearly prepared documents with which Franchina offered them, and stood for some time staring impassively at the faces of the two men, the younger at the wheel, with the black heads on his face and hair smoothed into well-oiled waves, and De Luca at his side, sunk into the seat of the 1100, wrapped in his plain overcoat, which was too light for a winter which was already bitterly cold. So, we have another question? Go ahead.
I had two questions, but I was very inspired by what you were saying previously regarding basically the banality of la banalità del male that De Luca embodies. And I was wondering, when you were talking about moving the goalpost, right, it reminds me of like Natalia Ginsburg's Le Piccole Virtù, ad esempio, because of how day to day there's the quotidianità, there's the day-to-day nature of life, but then little by little people become part of the evil that happens. And so I was wondering, like, whether you were thinking about the Italian authors of the Dopoguerra when you were writing this, and whether you felt that you would be in conversation with someone like Natalia Ginsburg or Primo Levi, or whether it was more inspired by the research that you did.
Hai rubato dalla Ginsburg?
Scusate, posso dire anche in italiano se vuoi.
No, credo che mi chiedevo da cosa ho tratto.
La relazione con Natalia Ginsburg.
No, in realtà no, oddio, non consapevole. Sto parlando in italiano. No, not consciously, of course. I read a lot of books. I read also Natalia Ginsburg, but if you ask me this in a specific way, no, I have to say no. Maybe, but I don't remember. But sometimes happen. You write a lot of things because you have read a lot of things, you have seen a lot of things, and many people told you a lot of things, and you have in your mind. If you ask me what is the come si dice, on the basis of this book, I can say some other book. I can say speak about Giorgio Shevchenko, who is a writer crime writer, Italian crime writer of the 60s, and because he's my, come si dice, my master, my model. And when I write, I speak, and I think about the way of telling a story of Giorgio Scimanenko. And also Carlo Castaneda, perché Carlo Castellaneta, because he wrote about a police like my police, and about this kind of shit, important shit. Natalia Ginzburg, of course, is very important, and maybe I wrote because I've read Natalia Ginzburg, but not directly.
Yeah, there are 3 pages in the acknowledgements, by the way, where, to answer to your question, he actually mentions exactly, like about biography, the authors that he worked on. Very specifically, there is a long list of writers, also catalogs of photos, because when he writes, he works very deep into history. So he really knows the local history. And he also mentions a couple of things that were not really accurate in the storytelling, but that's the art of invention. I mean, this is not a book of history, you know, but the history has a big role. You say, if I'm not wrong, that we should always write history with a capital letter, la storia. You say that. But there are 3 pages full of references, not Natalia Ginzburg, but others.
Non Natalia Ginzburg, but they could be. I have to.
Il cantante preferito.
Il mio cantante preferito.
Mi piace la musica.
Allora, it's difficult to say. Allora, I come from punk music. I was a punk when I was very young. And then times changing. You have much more belly and much less hair, so
no more punk.
No more punk. But no, I don't know what is my favorite singer. I like a lot of singers. The Clash, for example. I always say when we say, what is the Clash?
So, but Giovanni Lindo Ferretti?
Also Giovanni Lindo Ferretti, yes, CCCP, yes.
Because he went, by the way, it's very interesting. Giovanni Lindo Ferretti, for those ones who don't know who he is, he was a real punk, band, and he went through so many transformations and very super left anarchist. And now, recently, in the last probably 15 years or 10, he turned completely on the right side, right, like far right. So very also into religion. So he was a super left. Somehow Rampini told us that he was writing in the secretary of Berlinguer, so he came from there. But now he has so much doubts,
People change.
So, but what about beyond the Clash? What about Lucio Dalla? I mean, him in Bologna is like saying...
Yes, no, allora, I say the Clash because it's a choice, but I have a lot of them. Allora, in Bologna I worked, for example, with Vasco Rossi. I wrote the video clip, music video for Vasco Rossi, and I like Vasco Rossi. So
which song?
Allora, Gli spari sopra.
It's yours?
No, not the song. I write the video clip. The spari sopra was girato, filmed, penso, in Alcatraz.
Really, here?
Yes, here. Very beautiful. I didn't come. Yes, I didn't come to see it because it cost too much. And so they say, okay, the screenwriters stay at the studios and nothing else. We don't need you. So. And Vasco Rossi, Lucio Dalla also, of course. In Bologna we have a lot of very big singers.
Yes.
Very good, Cremonini and so on. Gucci,
Here the audience is like, hey, don't forget. So, I don't know if we have more. We have a question here. Go. Sorry.
If there's time, Yes.
Yes.
Oh, the last one, because then we have to. Yeah, I just wanted to ask. You said most of your novels in the 40s, right, in a fascist time, and I'm wondering, do you use also the past as a paradigm for the present? Is it a way for you to talk about actually current times, but to use the safer, tool of fiction to set it in the past? Is it like a paradigm for the present?
Yes.
Do you ever think of setting a novel in the current times?
Yes, it always a paradigm of the present times, and because you don't choose, of course, you wake up in the morning and say, I want to write about Julius Caesar, like this now. Happens something in the world for me, and I want to make some question about it. It's difficult to some question about the present time, because I live in the present time. So I remember this. Allora, one of the novel of De Luca is Via delle Oche. And Via delle Oche was about the first election in Italy, free election, in 1948. There was an election very, very, very hard, with a lot of political problem. And there was a manifesto, picture, with a Cosacco, a Russian Cosacco. And the manifesto say, are you waiting for him? The Cosacco was very, very minaccioso, with the knife. And it was a manifesto of Democrazia Cristiana against the Communist Party, of course. And I've seen in 1996 the same manifesto on the newspaper, because there was the election between Berlusconi and Prodi. Very hard election, with a lot of political figure, and the manifesto of Cosacco in the newspaper. So I said, I want to write something about this, the election. You have to change, you have to choose, the party, you have to do something. But I couldn't write about this election, because I vote. I know I have an enemy in this election, and I don't want to write about this. I want to, this is difficult, mettere in scena un meccanismo. Sì. To put on a mechanism, okay, in my story. A universal mechanism. So, I go back to the first election and to the first manifesto of Cosacco. And I write about the election with the Commissario De Luca, in Via delle Oche, 1948, because I wanted to write about this election. And this is why I choose, but I don't write also only history book, because sometimes you can speak about the present or yourself in the present. The last book I wrote, it's now, is not an investigation. I am not a detective in this book. I would like to write something very cruel for me about my biggest fear. I am a parent, I have 2 daughters, and the biggest fear of someone like me is, never happened, luckily, is when the carabinieri ring on your bells and at 2 in the night. And I can write about this. I don't need history, because this is my present, it's me, and so on. But if I have to write about war, for example, nuclear war, what happened now?
You go to the past.
I go to the past. I go to the 70s, for example. Why? Because we say like this, sometimes you have the binocular, and you look, and sometimes it's better to reverse the binocular. If you are
you need the distance.
Yes, you need the distance.
So it's a literary device. It's a literary device. Il meccanismo è un device letterario.